Showtime.
Right.
We're in.
Well, thank you guys for showing up here. This is a special day for many reasons. Um, we like these little chats to talk about books and about the writing stuff, and these are friendly and laid back and easygoing. And our guest today is my dear wonderful agent Kimberly Cameron, the only agent I've ever had, and we're figuring it out. We've probably been together a quarter of a century now and
Right.
have published like 24 books or something. So we met a long time ago in a writers conference and decided at that time, even though I was still working on a manuscript, we both kind of said we're going to work together someday, and it happened, and there it is. So Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. Yes?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I'm here to answer your questions about agenting and the process of the business. I know it's not easy. It's hard to be a writer. I have a lot of respect for writers because it's a lonely profession and you're alone. And that's why an agent is a good friend to have on your team. It's really, I call it like a team because it takes more than one to get a book published. It takes a village. And what agents usually do once they fall in love with a manuscript is try and steer you through the process and even through the rejections, which are part of the process. I mean, I've got some very successful. Hello? I've got some very successful authors that still the process of rejection is just so hard to go through. So when you have an agent on your side, because so many people ask me, why do I need an agent? Well, because this is a tough business. And so when you have somebody who's on your team and championing your work, it's not so lonely. And you have somebody that can hold your hand through it and guide you in the best way we can. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. But
And it's true. And Kimberly, what I like about her is she's frighteningly honest and will hit you upside the head and say, what were you thinking? And so, I like that. In fact, she rejected the first three manuscripts I sent to her and kept telling me, no, you're not ready. But then we finally started publishing, and the rest is history. But she stuck with me, and I stuck with her, and I think that's a good agent. And her advice was always spot on. So don't be bashful. Ask questions. I know you have questions about this process. Um,
I also want to say something that you just mentioned, Doug. It's really important that I wanted to work with Doug because he was respectful and polite and funny. And it's a personality. It's kind of like a marriage. I mean, that's why I always say when you're writing a query letter to an agent, don't say dear agent, use my name and say why you're querying me. I mean, and I'm telling you this for other agents because I'm actually not open to submissions right now because I've got so many clients that I just have to manage them right now. But I'm here to answer your questions for any kind of general knowledge that you have. But that first query, that when you're querying an agent, it's really important to do your homework and think about why you would want to be with that agent. And if you approach it that way personally, it's much better for us because we feel like, oh, you aren't just throwing it out there to a million agents. So that's really, I think, one of the best things you can do when you're looking for an agent. But
So I'm gonna ask first. Let's talk real quick. What's one thing that you would see in a query letter that you would kind of look and say, not happening? Or what would you look in a query letter and say, okay, this is interesting. Let's move a little forward here.
Well, I've had some doozies over my time in this business. I remember one, I think Doug has heard this story of saying, hey, knucklehead, started out like that. How much jingle can you get me for an advance? And it went on from there. And this guy thought he was serious, And then I got another one, and this was in the day of, I am a little bit of a dinosaur. Letters that came in the mail because there was no internet for a long time when I was in the business. And it was a picture of a trash can with a bunch of things in it, just papers crumpled up. He says, I don't want to end up here. And, it just started this negative kind of connotation. And it was like, No, that's not what you want to see. What you want to see, as I just was saying, is something there's a personal approach, and then there's a succinct 2 or 3 sentence overview, brief as you can be, that you've practiced to really get an overview of what your story is about. You need to tell me the genre right away, the word count, and then why you decided to query me particularly, and a little bit about yourself. I mean, I'm always curious as to how writers, who they are and where they live and what they come from and why they're writing. I kind of like that personal touch. So those ones that are very serious, they're not wasting my time. They're really trying to get an agent. And when I see something that's kind of well written and serious like that, and it could be a good story, I'll look at it.
Now, there's a question in the chat that is, what's your favorite way to meet aspiring writers?
I did the conference circuit for years, and I do the still do the book passage in Corte Madera mystery and thriller conference, because I host the faculty party, which I love because I love the faculty. But when I was a newer agent, I went to Left Coast Crime, I went to Boucher Con, I went to a lot of just writing conferences all over country, really, and meeting them, and hearing their pitches face to face was really a really great way to make that first introduction. So I think conferences are really good.
So
Don, can I ask a follow-up question?
Please go.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Kimberly. It's so
Hi.
great to meet you. Your reputation precedes you through
Thank
Doug and others.
Thank you.
So when I asked what's your favorite way, is it bumping into you in the elevator? Is it saying, hey, Kimberly, could we have a cup of coffee? Or is it actually sitting down and writing you a query? What's the best way to introduce yourself to? So it's short of stalking.
No, I understand. I mean, Jillian Manis, who was a great agent for a long time, used to say that she was in the bathroom in a stall and someone pushed with their foot their manuscript into her bathroom. That's going a little far.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to be stalked for sure. And, we do get exhausted because usually at these conferences, they have these one-on-ones that you can sign up for. So, we do that for hours sometimes. And at the end of it, we're pretty tired, so but, I was always open if somebody just was very respectful of my space and said, hey, do you have 5 minutes to chat? And sometimes I say, I really can't right now, but I would many times and listen to them too. So, just be respectful, and, you can be the judge of that. But agents are there to meet people. That's what we're supposed to be there doing. So I always felt kind of a responsibility to fulfill that need,
And I think that's the key, and that's an important point. Remember, agents make their money because they sell books. And so they want to like what you are going to present to them. They're hoping that this is the thing I've been looking for. That's the wish. So, be nice, be polite, and write a good book. That
Yeah, and
helps.
also, I want you to keep in mind too, because a lot of writers get so nervous about talking to agents, and we don't bite, and we're really looking for good material. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. But you just have to know that you are going to hire us for 15%, which is across the board, to represent you too. So you have that kind of presence that you can bring to the table, and your work that you've worked so hard on and polished, hopefully, so that when you're ready to get an agent, you're ready for that marketplace as much as you can. I mean, agents continue to edit. We do with our clients when we take somebody on, but you have to get your work seen by a lot of eyes, writing groups, whatever you can do to help you get it into the best shape possible before you come to us, because you get one shot.
There's another one on the chat asking about, there are agents out there that charge writers to submit. Is this a standard and okay, or is this a scam?
Scam. No, You will not be charged by an agent to submit your work. We read for free. I hate to say it, but that's what we do most of the time. On our weekends, on our nights, everything. We read for free. So no, if somebody's telling you it'll cost you this much, editorial services are different, but for agenting, no. For representation, you shouldn't pay any money at all.
I think
Sure.
George had a question. I saw his hand up. Go ahead, George.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Cameron, for this.
Go ahead. You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
I can't.
Okay, how's this?
Okay,
That's
that's
better.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. My first question, if I've had a successful writing experience, should I mention that before the actual
Yes,
thing in my query letter?
yes, absolutely. If you've been
Sure.
published any place, definitely mention it, because that means that you know the business, number one, that we feel like you're a professional. And number two, it means that somebody liked your work. So yeah, always mention that.
So here's another
Okay.
one, Kimberly.
So that's okay. So that's okay to.
Yep.
So that to do
You're breaking up, George.
pitch.
We're just getting snippets for some reason.
So I think George is
Oh,
asking like,
I'm-
so George, so you're asking if you've already published in the past and you have a career and you're doing something different to try to get another agent, should you mention your career in the past, correct? Is that what you're asking about?
I produced off Broadway.
Oh, okay. So something
Which is
totally
not-
kind of different?
Yeah, I mean, we want to know about you.
Yes.
We want to
Yeah.
know who you are besides your
Okay.
work. So
Yeah.
absolutely
Okay.
tell us something that you've enjoyed or you're successful at.
Okay, and prior to the actual pitch, is it appropriate to say what influenced me to write this story?
Yes, I think that's always very interesting to know where these stories
Okay.
come from. I mean, what I love about this business is that you never know what you're going to read. I mean, you never know. And so I've gone so many places, from time travel, historical fiction, to nonfiction, to science, to great mysteries and thrillers, and to romantic comedies. And you just never know what you're going to read. So yeah, I've always curious as to how you came to write something.
Then I have two questions with probably short answers. Should I say that this is a to you rather than many agents?
No, you should query several agents at a time, because we're overwhelmed and overworked, and we may not get to you in a timely manner. So I think it's
Okay.
understood from agents that you can query many at a time.
Okay, and then finally, when you ask for a synopsis, I feel like a kid asking a high school teacher how long the paper should be. How long should it's 2 pages in a synopsis? Is that enough?
I think it's definitely enough. I think the best synopses, if you want to send a synopsis besides just that brief paragraph in the letter, I think 1-page synopses are pretty fast, efficient, and I'm getting a view of the story. So I think 1 page is really ideal.
Super. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, George. So here's another question for you, Kimberly. Here we go. Is it okay to query an agent whose names you found in the acknowledgement section of one of your favorite author's books?
That's probably the best way to do it. And, that means to me that they've researched me and they are serious about having me as their agent. So absolutely use that acknowledgement page. I do it for editors. Are you kidding? I'm always asking my clients, I said, if you have the book, find out who the editor is, and if that's your dream editor and dream publisher, and we'll go to them. I mean, that's how I've done a lot of deals.
And when you're talking that kind of editor, you're talking the acquisition editor at a publishing house that's going to buy your book, not an editor who's going to edit your book. So different type.
No. The ones that usually in the acknowledgments, and by the way, some of my clients don't acknowledge me, which is not very nice, but they usually acknowledge their editor at a publishing house. And I know those names, so it's very easy for me to recognize who the editor is.
Here's another one. How important is it to have a very concise pitch when you're meeting an agent?
I think it's really important. Again, we're listening to stories all day long when we're at a conference or something. And so if you have it down to, we call it the elevator pitch, which, it makes writers nervous. So I don't really like to use that phrase because it's like, oh, I only have this much time. But if you can get it to a concise idea, it's really about the idea of the story. That's what we want to know what it is, and the genre. That, so many people don't know their genres. And that's a real big mistake because in that letter, you need to have that down. You need to know the marketplace and the books that are similar to your story. And that really helps us determine whether that's a fit for our list or not, or from the get-go. So, if you can just get it down to something that you're comfortable saying and feels like you're on top of the story, I think that's a great tool to have.
All right, here's another one for you.
Okay, keep them
What are
coming.
the main, here you go, this is a good one. What are the main surefire elements that a new story will have the potential to be successful?
Well, I will tell you this, and this was a headline story in the New Yorker years and years ago called The Impossible Business. And nobody knows anything in publishing. Writers make the market. Okay, you guys make the market. And we don't know what's going to be popular. What's popular today is not going to be popular in 18 months, which is the usual contract it takes for a book to be published. Those trends come and go. And I've seen people, editors, when I used to go to the rounds in New York, when everybody was in New York, that's a long time ago. They, editors will say, oh, historical fiction's out. And then The Alienist came out. You guys make your market. So don't write for the market. Don't write because something's popular. I always tell my clients and my authors, write from your heart. Write what you want to write and see if it can fit somewhere in the market. And wherever that fits is what you talk to me about. But don't write for the market because what's new and popular today is not going to be there tomorrow.
Nice.
What I would say.
Now, here's another one. I've seen agents and editors posting that right now is an especially challenging time in publishing. Everything is taking much longer and agents are being much more selective than usual. Have you found this to be the case?
I'll tell you why. And, I had this discussion with my colleague, Dorian Maffey, who's one of my agents, and she's really great. When I started, and I joined the AAR, which is now the AALA, the Association of Artists Representatives, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And it was really hard to join. I had to sell 11 books in 8 months or something, or 8 books in 11 months. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was so hard to get that before I could even become a member and feel like they could approve me for their canon of ethics as a real agent. Dorian informed me now that the AALA has come about and they're reaching out, they're like 500 or 600 agents all of a sudden. And that's a whole new paradigm in publishing. And so if you can imagine being an editor in New York or wherever, how many more agents are querying you right now? And how many more projects you're getting every day when you put a deal out there in Publishers Marketplace? And that's, by the way, a great tool. And that's what I do when I research deals and editors. I think it's $25 a month, but you can join for free for a month. Like if you're querying and you want to see an agent and how many deals or the genre you're in and what kind of deals are being made in that genre by serious agents, I would definitely suggest that you do that at least for a month so you know exactly how to pinpoint an agent. But you can imagine how hard it is now when COVID made a huge dent in every business and in our lives, obviously. And I think that things are still coming back. And with the paper shortages, everything kind of shut down, as we know. So we're still coming back from COVID. And I think that the publishing business has changed. I think it's less polite than it used to be. Some editors don't get back to me at all, and I just feel like it's a black hole out there.
Yeah.
And if those editors that I look in my database don't get back to me, I go somewhere else because, I think it's a communication business and it is a personal business, as I suggested earlier, on every level. So, yeah, I think it's harder, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. I mean, I'm selling books, so there we go. It takes tenacity is what it takes on your part and my part.
So if you're turning away authors, do you refer them to other agents or agencies?
We don't have the time to do that unless it's something I've read and I think it's so good. And then I will, if it's just not for my list, I would pass it around to my agents because I think it's worth their time. But we don't, I mean, I don't research other agents, so I don't know what they're doing. And that's just not what we do in our time. We look at a project and see if it's right for us. And if not, then we just suggest that, best of luck elsewhere.
Now, let's say you decide to take somebody on. Are there contracts that are signed between the agent and the writer? And if so, kind of explain a little bit about that contract between agent and author once you decide to say, I want to take you on.
Well, I can certainly speak from my own contract. I don't know other agencies or their contracts. I mean, everybody works differently. But in the very beginning, when I started doing this, my husband was an entertainment attorney for many years. And we took all these agent contracts. I remember I gathered them and we kind of siphoned it into a 2-page contract because I didn't want a long, Doris Halsey, my late mentor and partner, she was so wonderful. And she never even had a contract. It was always a handshake deal because she'd say, well, I figure if they don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with them either. you know. And but mine's very kind of like, 1 year, it's for a year. And if you put in writing that you don't want to work with me anymore, the only thing that is in that contract is that any submission I've made with my name on it to a publisher is still my submission to that for that book. So if it sells to that publisher, then I'm the agent of record for that deal. But I mean, I don't have look, Doug and I've been together 25 years. I don't have a lot of clients that leave. A few have because they've just felt like that wasn't a good fit anymore or whatever. And I've let a few clients go because they were a pain in the you know what. And I just don't have time for that. Like I said, it's we want to enjoy our work. I love being an agent. I love reading things every day. And I just ask for patience and not to be, somebody who's just on me all the time. I just had to tell a client that I just need some space and to give me some breathing room. And I'm about to go to France for a couple weeks and I just need a break. So, we're human, too. And Doris used to say, I only have 2 eyes. And sometimes it can take me a couple months to get to a manuscript. I mean, that's the reality. I'm overwhelmed too, and I'm not even taking on new submissions. So it may take me 2 or 3 months to get to your book that I've had in the queue for that long. But I'm reading all the time. I'm doing it every day. And things come in before others, like especially if it's a referral or something. And I've got clients who the publisher needs to see it. And I have they want my eyes on it before we take it to the publisher because I'm that first reader. I'm not the first reader, but I'm that last reader before it goes to the publisher. So I have those time constraints that I have to jump that manuscript in the queue and get to that first. So that happens all the time for me. And so I ask my authors to be patient, because when they take a year and a half to write a book and they expect me to read it tomorrow, I sometimes just can't do that.
Yeah, and I'll double on that because, running Suspense Publishing, like we're a publisher, like we said before, and like the last 6 to 8 months, I have 105 queries sitting in our box that people have sent to us for manuscripts.
Yeah.
And we're a small house and trying to get through 105 is it's time consuming because you have other things that you're doing and you're just not doing that every day and, 24 hours a day. So it just takes some time. But here's another question for you. Let's say you've had somebody's manuscript for a year or 2 years. Do you kind of like start looking with the writer and saying, you know what, maybe you should go with someone else? Is there a time frame that an author should look and say, you kind of had my book for 18 months and it's not really doing anything? Is that maybe a time to kind of say, hey, we can kind of sever ties and move someplace else? Or what do you think about that?
Well, are you talking about after you've signed with me?
Yeah, so you have the book and now you've had it for like 18 months and it
No,
hasn't.
no, that never happens. It's never that long. No, 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 no.
No,
Don't get the
no,
wrong idea. It's not like
there's
2 years
stories
to go
out
by.
there
No,
that
no, no.
say
I'm
no.
talking about 2 or 3 months max. And I'm always in touch with my clients and say, I'm trying to get to it, but just give me a little more time. And, I mean, it just, and life intervenes. My husband was in the hospital a couple times last year. And
Right.
so, that's my focus right there. So, I mean, life happens to agents too. So, but with people who are querying an agent, that's why I say query a lot of agents at the same time. But do be cognizant of the fact that if we're like saying that we've asked for the whole manuscript and we're really seriously considering it, and that can be 6 months sometimes because you're not quite the client yet, do let us know if you go with somebody else. Because if we start feeling, I feel guilt all the time. I'm just like guilty all the time. I'm thinking of all the writers and all the manuscripts that are in my queue. And I go to sleep and then wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, I haven't read that yet. I have to read that. That is how I live. So if you could just be polite enough to let us know that you've signed with someone, and that always gives us like great congratulations. And I wasn't fast enough. It's probably great, and I just wasn't fast enough. But it gives us that opportunity to say, okay, not going to read that one, but and go on. Because sometimes I've read things and then they said, oh, I already signed with somebody else, and it's like, that can take 5 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours of our life. So we really ask for that kind of communication.
Right. Now, so now that you're signed, how long do you think that, like the process should take for someone? Because, people get antsy and they're like, okay, I got an agent and she's submitting my book to editors, but it's been 6 months. I haven't heard anything. What do you tell them when they start feeling down?
That happens a lot.
I
Well,
know.
if you have a good agent, number one, so she's just read or he has just read your material and you've worked on it with them. Okay. So we're going out with that manuscript. Every rejection I get, I give to my authors, even if they don't want them, because you know what? I have these shoulders, they're just this big, and I need to share what's going on in the business with you and let you know why something's being rejected or, where it's been and all that stuff. So we're in constant communication when I'm going out with a project. I mean, I always say go away for a month or two and let me get it out there to editors, because it takes time to research and get things back and get the editors to read it. But then, I would say at the most, you should be hearing something within 2 months, 3 months at the most. That would be like odd because we usually get responses quicker than that.
Okay.
Elisa has her hand raised, but she's not on camera, so we can't see it. So, Elisa, do you have a question?
Yes. First of all, hello. Wow, how exciting. I found this at almost midnight last night and I'm
Hey, you
totally,
found it. That's the important part.
yeah, totally stoked. The author that I'm reading right now who wrote So You Want to Talk About Race, New York Times bestseller, Ijeoma Oluo, said that she was approached by people. She was typing online in the world online and people approached her and said, we want to publish you. Is that like the military where it's the 1%?
I would say that it wouldn't be 1%. I think that, now, as I said, the business has changed so much. People are actively looking in many, many places besides just query letters to find talent. And if you can get a following from book talk, from whatever medium, whatever you're using to put your work out there, it's all good. It's all good because you never know when an agent or an editor is gonna, at any big publisher is gonna find you and consider your work. So it can happen. I think it's more likely to happen now than before. So I
Thank
think
you.
it's a good idea to do that.
Lisa, let me answer the other part of your question here. You said you're at Southern New Hampshire University and you're in creative writing, and you want to know, is that the right track to write a book? And I'm going to say that's fine, but the answer is no. If you want to learn to write a book, and you've got to learn from writers who write commercial fiction. An MFA in creative writing is not going to teach you how to write a novel. It's going to teach you to teach, and it's going to teach you about writing, and it's going to teach you about the rules of writing. It's going to teach you to make pretty sentences and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not going to teach you to tell a story. And
Nailed
what
it.
you got to do is tell your story your way. And that means writing a lot, and it means reading a lot, and it means going to Outliers ongoing online university
Look,
where we're
look,
teaching people to write commercial fiction. But having a degree in English and having a degree in creative writing is fantastic. That's great. You learn a lot about literature. But commercial, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kimberly, but commercial writing is a different animal. Writing a novel is a different animal.
I think Doug is right about the fact that, you know, they say get some, excuse my French, butt glue and get in the chair and just write. And that's going to get you there. But, you know, I am impressed when I get a query letter that says they have an MFA in writing.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, they're serious.
Right.
So, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it does mean something to an agent to hear that you've actually got an MFA in English literature or whatever, because it means that you're a serious attempting to writer, you know, and then I'll read your work and see if you can write or not, you know. So anyway, I think it's a good idea, but
Now,
not necessary. But not necessary. There's a lot of writers who don't have MFAs and are fabulous writers. So
but there is a somebody called Stephen James who literally has a master's degree in storytelling. Like
Mhm.
the name of his degree, it's a master's degree in storytelling. Only one we've ever heard. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I got that. You know, here's a good question, and this is one that I know a lot of people talk about because of the ease of being able to publish your own work. So what are your views on the growing trend of self-publishing? Does this really work or just an easy way to initially enter the market? Now, the one thing that I will say about this question, Neil, is, and Kimberly, you can back me on this one possibly, because we took a lot of pitches. If you're coming to an agent and you're saying, I'm pitching you my second or third book in a series, that's almost a death knell because you've already self-published your first book. And that's difficult for you as an agent, right? To say, your second or third book in a series, where's the first one at? I mean, there's really nothing you can do with that.
no, unless it's sold so many copies and people are paying attention, and you
Right.
know, that's a whole different scenario. But you know, if you publish your first and second in a series and you come to me with a third, there's no way I can do anything with it usually, unless I said it's hugely popular out there and selling like crazy. But you know, self-publishing has changed. It has changed. I think it's more respectable to do that now. I think authors are choosing to do that so they have more control. But let me caution you. I mean, self-publishing means you've got to wear the writer's hat, the publisher's hat, the publicist's hat. It's very challenging to try and get your book out there and marketed. So, you know, I know writers who had series at big houses, Putnam, other ones, and chose to want more control. And like Sheldon Siegel, right? You know, he does all his own books now, and he's because he had a reputation and he decided to just take it back. And I think he's making a lot of money.
I'll,
You know?
I'll chip in on that if I may, Kimberly.
Oh,
Sheldon.
hi, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hello, hello,
Paul.
Kimberly.
Where's your
Uh,
manuscript?
I have whittled it down from a flabby 102,000 words to 85,000.
Oh,
Mostly good
There you
words.
go.
Mostly good words, and it's almost there.
okay.
Moments away. Sheldon's an old friend up there in the Bay Area where you are. And I have a similar experience in that I actually paid Random House to buy back a series. And believe me, it was not fun writing a check to them.
I wouldn't have let you do that, by the way. But anyway.
I don't know if they would do it anymore or not.
Yeah.
It paid off in the long run. They then got very angry with me because I now have my own product detail page, and I created for fun a publisher called Ransom House.
Oh
And
gosh.
I got a letter from
Close, Paul.
Of course
I
you
got a
did.
letter from their business affairs legal department to cease and desist, which I did, and then formed my other company, Herald Square Publishing, which sounds quite legitimate.
Yeah.
but not as good as Ransom House.
That's a pretty great story, but yeah, I can see why the legal department got all over you on that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, they didn't think it was funny. I don't know.
But you can see why we love Paul.
But Paul,
And
Paul,
I have to say this about Doug, and then I'm going to be quiet. Besides being a firecracker of a writer, a wonderful writer,
Uh-oh.
Doug, you have a voice that you should be doing All Things Considered on NPR. You have such a great speaking voice.
I've been
Thank
telling
you.
him that for years, and he's doing a lot of that now, so it's great.
Yeah.
But Paul, would you tell everybody else, how do you feel about your experience in self-publishing, and why are you coming to me as an agent now?
Good. Good question. I'll see if I can contribute here. And by the way, Kim, I was represented for decades by Al Zuckerman, who I'm sure you
Right.
know,
Of course,
and he
great
gave
agent.
more notes than CBS would give when I wrote in television. My sales dropped off in the series that I was writing. I wrote another series which Random House published. Kate Misiak was the editor. That came to an end. They lost interest in me. I self-published a couple of books, and then I did sort of a hybrid thing. Thomas and Mercer, an Amazon company, published a four-book series. That came to an end. I had already learned how to self-publish, and I had a little team. And this is sort of important too. And Kimberly hit on the fact you're your own publisher, you're a publicist. I have a cover designer in New Zealand. I have a publicist in Brooklyn. I have a format guy in Milwaukee. So there are expenditures, and publicists are not cheap.
No.
And there is a time delay, but nothing like the time delay that you have in traditional publishing, which Kimberly has talked about. It's not going to take 18 months, but it'll take a few months. And then it takes you away from the writing. That's the one thing that really I don't like about it. There's a certain fun in having an ability to tell a cover designer what you really think and have them shape it your way, as opposed to a traditional publisher. At least my experience always was they send you the cover, it's already done, and they say, we hope you love it as much as we do. This is the cover. I had no input.
That's changed now, though. They you know, and
Little
most
bit, yeah.
agents worth their salt will also ask to have approval, author approval with the cover,
Yes.
or not approval. Sometimes you can't get that, but consultation. So,
Right.
you know, now the publishers that I work with usually give us 3 or 4 covers, and they want to know how the author feels. So it's a little bit better now.
I would love that. I also found back in the day that the flat copy was terrible, sometimes gave away too much, sometimes it was too vague, sometimes it was just wrong. So yes, and Kimberly hit on this, there is something about being your own writer, editor, publisher. Oh, I left out a step. I hire 2 editors. I have a regular editor and a copy editor to go along with the cover designer, the publicist, and the format person. But now to answer the question, I want to start a new series, I've written the first manuscript, that I think has broad commercial appeal. It is historical fiction. It does blend fact and fiction, as Caleb Carr's The Alienist did back in the day. I actually reviewed that book for the Chicago Tribune. As so much of what we now call historical fiction does, and that is takes real characters, and in my case, the real life friends, Charlie Chaplin and Albert Einstein, and puts them in a real situation that was going on at the time, even though they weren't involved in it at the time. And I'm hoping that Kimberly agrees when she reads my
Here we go. You go, Paul. Kimberly, come on.
Yeah, no, I hope so too. I'll just say I hope so too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Mary Lou, you have a question. I see your hand raised.
No.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Kimberly, can you give us a peek behind the emperor's robe in terms of the internal vetting process that you and your 6 other agents go through to, well, vet or greenlight a manuscript? Is it something that you do individually, and then like Costco buyers, you take it to the whole buying team and say, sample this?
No, we are, at least in this agency, I trust these women. I've nurtured them along for a long time, and they were readers for me for a long time. And then, one by one, I felt like they were ready to be agents and they wanted to be agents. But by that time, I really trust them and their taste and they know the business. So we are all independent with our clients. So I can tell you how I work. I mean, it's really there on the page, Marilu. It's a feeling you get where, oh my God, who would love this book? I love this book. Who would love this book? And you get editors in your mind that you think might buy the book. And that's the real surefire like green light for me. And I have to kind of fall in love. I really do. And it's very it's out there. That's a big idea, but I have to fall in love with the writer's voice. It has to touch my heart in some way. I have to feel that the characters are really well developed. The author has a real sense of place, and that comes off through the page and the writing. I really love atmosphere. I think that's talent with a writer. And so when those things come together and the story comes together, sometimes I read manuscripts that are too long, and they have a beginning, a muddle, and an end. And the muddle you just get stuck in, and you don't want to keep going. And that's the problem with most manuscripts we turn down. They really have to be like 85,000 words is a real good number. That's what the market wants. You can get away with longer manuscripts for science fiction, fantasy.
I'm Clancy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But or if you're famous, but yeah, I think that it's really about that spark that happens when you read and go, oh, I think I might like this. Because that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, we read a lot of manuscripts that just quite aren't there for us, or they're too similar to something we have, or I mean, there's a lot of reasons we turn things down. It's not just your work. And that's why I encourage all my agents to be, encouraging and complimentary. At least if you feel something about the writing, let the author know that I think somebody else is going to like this. I can't tell you who it is or tell you to go to that agency, but I think that you should keep going. And that's what I've always tried to do for authors, because it's hard out there. It's really hard, and it's hard to get rejected. And, agents do keep this in mind, the ones that don't have a black heart. And, I say that because when I was a very young agent, I remember reading that agents have a black heart. And I said, oh, how could they say that? And I didn't understand that at all. But, there are agents out there that just don't care that much. And that's why I think our agency has a nice reputation, because we do. We all do. All the agents are really earnest and work really hard at trying to get our clients published.
Now, here's a good question. And, I like to hear these questions because it's, or answer these questions because somebody says, oh, I heard this from someone. So I've heard that one book is not enough anymore, and that agents and publishers are looking for someone to have at least 2 books ready to go before they take that author serious. Is that true?
I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that if you're doing a series and you're already working on the second book, and you can give let's say an editor likes your book. So if you have something that you're working on that is going to continue that series, that's great. And the publishers will likely make a 2-book deal if they really love the first book. So it's nice to have that, but it's not necessary for fiction. I don't think, especially if you're doing a standalone, I don't think that absolutely is necessary.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Now,
Ask
here's,
your agent.
I don't know if you handle this genre that much, so I don't know. But someone who wrote, the horror genre seems to be on the rise with the popularity of Joe Hill, Paul Tremblay, and Josh Mallerman. Josh is a really funny interview, by the way. I've interviewed him a couple times. Do you see this as well?
Yes, and I'm, I don't get a lot of horror, but I'd love some really good horror. I love it when it's really good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of bad horror out there that they think is, good, but it isn't yet. So, it's either not ready or whatever. But I don't have any horror, and I'd love to find some. So there, yeah,
Now here's
it's
another.
definitely popular right now.
So you got rapid fire coming at your questions. Here we go. We are finding out what agents want from writers. What should writers look for in an agent?
That's a very good question, and I will tell you what I feel. I think, again, communication is everything. You have to feel like this agent is serious about your work, is a serious agent. They're doing deals. They have a reputation. They're communicative, like I said, is really important. And you don't feel like you're bothering them. I mean, I never let my authors feel that way. I mean, unless like I need to take a break or something like that. But really you need an agent that you feel is in your corner, and you feel that confidence with a relationship going back and forth with your work. I mean, when I take somebody on, I'm working on their manuscript, and we're going at it, and I'm asking them, what's your dream publisher? Where would where's your fantasy of being published? Because I want to get your opinion of what your career should look like too, besides what I think. So, I mean, you really need to have that back and forth with an agent that you just feel is engaged with your work and serious about your work, and is going to work hard for you, because that's what we do. You're hiring us to work for you and take 15% of every book that's ever sold that you wrote. So if we're successful, that's what's going to happen. And believe me, it's not that much for us because we work so hard at it. I mean, some books don't sell. I've sold a book after 7 years of trying. Okay. That is how hard we work when we believe in your work. So, if you can feel that from an agent, and you can usually tell if they're really engaged with you, that's what I would say.
So here's another good question. Do you ever advise on book price, like the recommended retail price, or is that determined by the publisher? So do you have any say in that at all with the deal?
No, not usually. They don't list the price that they're going to sell it at that time when they buy the book.
Right.
That comes later in the game.
Okay. So I have an agent and now my book is sold. What's the next step that you're going to help me through?
Well, we help you through the contract. Okay, that's really what we do. We get the best deal we can for you, and sometimes it's impossible to keep the subsidiary rights. I mean, more and more, and this is a new trend in publishing for me. More and more publishers are just demanding to take everything, and it's not as negotiable as it used to be. But I mean, we have a lawyer team that we use to help us with, because the lawyer team are lawyers and they look at all the contracts all the time, so they know what they can get and what they can't. So that's kind of the expertise you're getting from us in that. And then as it goes down the line, I mean, I'm CC'd usually on all the editorial correspondence between the author and the publisher. So I know what's going on, and I chime in when I need to. I'm not, a pest or anything, but I'll chime in, and I'll ask questions if I feel like or, I can have my authors say, I'm frustrated because of this. I will step in like I did yesterday. And I stepped in and wrote the editor and say, my client is frustrated and these are her concerns. And I will get, it's like, I think of agents as a referee between sometimes the publisher and the client. And I try and, I always say that I'm a deal maker, not a deal breaker. I really try and make it work. And I've had deals fall apart where the author was just pissed off and they didn't want to have this publisher, publish their work, or they were a pain and the publisher just said enough. So, sometimes I can't make it work, but in most 90%, I think I step in a way that the communication is open, and that's what we do. So we continue to work on your book all the way down the line, and when it's sold and it's successful, and like I will shamelessly promote this book. I am doing a big book launch at Book Passage today at 12:30, And this author and I, she's really great. We got a quote from Anne Lamott, and I'm doing a big wine and cheese, reading and interview with her today. So, I'm doing a launch at Book Passage in April too for another client. So, I mean, we kind of put our money where our mouth is sometimes too, and we pay for things like that when we feel we have a book that we'd really like. And I've invited a lot of people to this today. So, and that's when you asked me to do this today. I said, well, I'm going to be doing this all day anyway. So
Yeah.
I might as well start it off at 9:30. So
We might as well get you going.
yeah, but we continue down the line with our, it's a process and a relationship that continues. And then it's a marriage, like with Doug and I. I mean, Nan knows that Doug and I talk all the time. And it's because we've been together 25 years, in a professional way, and a friendship, has occurred. And that's the best reward I get from this business is making great, great friendships and relationships with people.
Now, is your agency a full service agency? So do you handle foreign rights, TV rights, movie rights, all of that? Is that common for agencies, or is yours kind of an outlier in that way?
No, I think most agents do all that. And we have sub agents that also do that. Like I have film agents in Hollywood because I'm not there. It's a different business. They know the players, they're all different. So, but we do have people that we respect and trust. And you know that if you're coming with me, that you're going to have people that are seasoned and professional. I just had a Zoom with my agents yesterday with Independent Artist Group, which used to be APA. And, it was all the agents with all their agents. So, we're connected that way. And I have a wonderful foreign rights agent, Whitney Lee. She's on my agency cover. I've known her for 25 years, and she sold one of my books in 21 countries. So if I can wrestle those rights, that's what we do. And that's usually common for most agencies, because
Okay.
that's where we make more money if the publishers don't have them, because you get a smaller percentage if they
Okay.
do.
Okay. Now, do you ever advise a writer on what they should write?
I would say I would counsel. I'm kind of, we talk things through and story ideas, and most authors, if they're successful in a genre, it's good to keep writing in that genre, just
Mhm.
because you're getting well known, and it, but I have so many authors that want to write a little bit of everything, and I encourage them to write what they want to write, really. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, that you're going to have the best writing when people write what they want to write. It may be not what publishers want to hear, but I do that because I want writers, my authors, to be happy too, and if something doesn't work, it doesn't work. I've got a very well-known author right now writing, gender bending stuff, bending stuff. And it's just, so far it hasn't worked, but I'm determined to keep trying to see if we can make that book happen. And she's pretty discouraged right now. And I've just said, hey, it takes rejection as part of the process. I mean, it's just, and sometimes, like I said, it can take 3 years to find something if you're going into another genre or you're starting something new. So, again, that author agent relationship, that's what our importance is to keep with you and believe in your work. And then I had another well-known author the other day that wrote something. I said, where did you go from this book to this book? Because this book for me is a little tough. And that was a tough conversation to have with them. I mean, and sometimes I have to tell them that I'm not caring about anybody in this book. And, that's important information for them to know, even if they don't want to hear it. And sometimes they get mad at me for a while, and then they come back and say, you're absolutely right. So that happens
I
often.
can vouch for that.
So I kind of like, I have to have thick skin, because it's hard to give that kind of feedback to an author that you know and like.
Well, the
But
first book I ever sent Kimberly was 130,000 words, 138,000 words,
Oh,
actually.
geez.
And this is back in the day when you printed it out, so it wouldn't even fit in a manuscript box. It was, it was a small,
I did
and,
too.
and so I sent it to her, and because it was great. I thought it was the greatest book ever written by a human. And so Kimberly actually read it and called me a week later and said, there's a story in there somewhere. I just can't find it. And I said, well, thanks. That's what I needed to hear. And she said, well, I'm sorry to be so blunt. I said, Cameron, I went to medical school. This is nothing. And so she said, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. And if you rewrite it, I'll read it again. Well, 10 years later, we actually published that book after 27 rewrites and published other stuff along the way. But the point is that's what I said up front, that she's brutally honest. And you see why I love her. And she will tell you, this is it. This is crazy. I mean, I was sent something, a prelim on something. And she said, basically, what the hell is this? I said, well, I've been reading a lot of Elmore Leonard lately. She said, well, leave Elmore alone. You see? So that's what I mean. But that's the advice that you need.
Yeah.
You need professional advice that is in your face, that says, this is what you have to do. Because I'm going to tell you, the world don't care about you until you do something they want. And then they care about you. But the world doesn't care that you have trouble writing this book and that you want to do it this way. If it's successful, then they will love you. But it's up to you to write that novel and do the best you can with it. But I agree with the one thing is write what you want to write. Because if you don't, you won't write it well.
True, true, true. So Kimberly, you said that you're not taking any more submissions right now because you're loaded down. But how does a writer know that an agent is not doing that? Like, what research do they have to do to kind of find out, oh, this agent's kind of packed and I don't want to kind of waste my time? And how do they know? Where do they
Well,
find?
we're very transparent that way. We now have a website where it lists all the agents and when they're closed to submissions. And some of my agents close for a month and then open up again. And so you have to just keep checking. I know a lot of my agents just recently opened up and got so many submissions they had to close. I mean, just to be kind to those authors that they had. And, I mean, again, I think the business has changed and we're all overwhelmed. And I just can't take on new writers right now. I mean, and I do work by referral. So if you, say, hey, I saw your Ask an Agent, I might take a look. I shouldn't say that because I'll get inundated. But I mean, I really feel that if there's a personal connection, I owe it to that author to at least take a look at their work. So, you can email me and just say, I was on your Ask an Agent and what do you think of this? And I'll let you know.
Nice.
Okay.
So we're kind of nearing the end. We only got about 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any other questions that I've tried to, I think Kimberly answered so many that you guys have kind of answered, but is there anything else you want to know? Anything else going on here?
Take off your mute.
Come on. It's now or never. She's never coming back.
No, take off your mute.
So
There we go.
Okay, I'm gonna take off my mute here. I don't know if I'm jumping
there you go.
on
You got it.
anyone else. This is Elisa. I'm sorry, I'm a dinosaur too, and I can't figure out the video. I'm scrolling to my question. So I guess we need to be cognizant of our own social media and start to set up our own social media. We can say we're a writer if we're writing, even if we haven't been published. I know it
Yes.
seems silly.
Yes, I mean,
Yes.
I always look at a website and see if you have a website, if it's professional, if you're establishing yourself, all that is really important. And because, I know that when I send your work out, an editor's going to do the same thing. So even if you haven't published, I encourage my authors, Vicky Monte is one of them. She just did her website and it really looks great and it's very professional. And, it's there, it's a placeholder so that when we go out with the book, it can happen. So.
Book Passage writers conference.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have been more clear on that. Book Passage is a big independent bookstore, and they have every famous writer and all that. But they do a lot of conferences, and they do a mystery thriller conference every year.
And I'm a mystery writer to be, and is it worth going to?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
It's the best. And two of my clients are on the faculty this year. And it's really, we really encourage and help. And there's workshops for writers. And every writer I've ever known that went to that passage, and I've done them for about 20 years, just said it's the best in the country. So I'll tell you.
It's very craft oriented. I've taught there many years, and it is a great place,
and
run by good people and a lot of fun.
I meet with writers and I discuss their work. I read it ahead of time, and we do all that. So
yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kimberly, is there anything else you want to say that has not been already said to kind of close us out here for this wonderful hour you gave us?
Well, I really think that you have to believe in your work and you have to just keep going. I mean, really, I see so many authors get discouraged just because the rejection process isn't an easy one, but it just takes one. And that's why, you have to have your work in the best possible shot when you go to an agent, and do your homework, and find the agents that are out there making deals that you want to be with. And that just keep going. I mean, that's what I would say. It's this is a business, and we all need material. We need good writers. That we need you. So I would say that, and just trust your instincts, and do what you do, and do it with a professional slant towards it, and you'll be successful.
Fantastic.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
You're
yes, we want to thank you for coming out. Remember, everybody, follow us here on Eventbrite for Outliers Book Club. Go follow, because we're gonna have a lot more of these talks and a lot more of these things to bring to you. Got a lot of classes coming up. So, Outliers Writing University, check us out. We're gonna help you be a better writer, and then Kimberly's gonna be your agent. Maybe. Never know. Who knows?
You never know. And best of
Never
luck,
know.
everybody. Okay,
Never know.
I'll say that. Best of
Thanks,
luck.
Casey.
But thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy.
Okay, Bye.
And we
Bye
appreciate
bye.
Have a great weekend.
Hope the book launch goes fantastic.
Thank you. I
Yes,
think
have
it
a
will.
good one.
Thanks
Yeah,
so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.